Since my time at State, I've participated in several clubs that emphasize career development, such as DBIA, which is Design Build Institute of America, and ABC, which is Associated Builders and Contractors. I'm also a leader in the Bluebeam User Group, which is a group that encourages skill development of the construction software that is used by our industry leaders. Since my time here, I have 3 internships with another on the way for this upcoming summer. And today we welcome Fresno State native Mr. Clint Williams. Mr. Williams serves as a business manager for Turner Construction's Fresno office. He is responsible for growing construction operations in education, healthcare, justice, and commercial projects throughout the Central Valley. He has more than 30 years of construction and project management experience on large, iconic public and private sector projects throughout the Northern California and San Joaquin Valley. His role from assistant project manager to project executive have included contracts exceeding $1.3 billion. So that's pretty good feat to have. Mr. Williams received his bachelor degree in industrial technology with an emphasis in construction from Fresno State. While at Fresno State, he's earned an NCAA All-American status in track and field, served as a president of Alpha Phi Alpha fraternity, and co-founded a t-shirt company. As an avid volunteer, he is committed to teaching youth about opportunities in engineering and construction. He also sits on multiple boards to display his leadership and governance over organizations of his interest and passion, including, but not limited to, serving as a member of Turner Construction Inclusion Action Committee, National Society of Black Engineers, Fresno State African American Studies Success Committee, and as a mentor with Create Mentoring, instructor with the Turner School of Construction Management, and a certified official with the USA Track and Field. Mr. Williams met his wife, Denise, of 31 years, while in school and have 2 sons, Blake and Andrew. And so today we are going to talk about 20-30 minutes, and he's going to explain his journey. And if you guys have any questions, be encouraged to submit in that Q&A box down at the bottom, and we'll do our best to answer them. And so now we would like to welcome Mr. Williams.
Thank you, Kendrick. I appreciate that introduction, but let me first start with a special thank you to Dean Nunna and the entire Lyles College of Engineering staff, students, and faculty. You know, it's been 32 years since 32 years in the industry, some 35 since I've been at Fresno State. So what I wanted to do is kind of take you through a little journey of how it all came to be, starting with growing up in Fresno to becoming the business manager for Turner in our Fresno office. Since these are tech talks, I'm going to use interactive technology. We're going to try to get everybody who is behind their computer to be interactive through menti.com. So if you have a phone, pull up menti.com, MENTI.com, and you're going to see a way for you to be interactive with this presentation. So the presentation is 3 parts. Talk about Fresno and growing up. Part 2 is going to be about Fresno State and my career path. And part 3 is some really cool technology we're going to take you through about what we're doing at Turner. All right, so let's start with a little bit about why Fresno. Let's see. So there's a little journey here, and I'm going to talk about why Fresno is important to me and how it all came back to being the business manager of Fresno. And it kind of starts with a story about where I was born. You see Clinton Avenue, which is obviously not too far from Fresno State. There's a story there. The parents that I have were living in a house not too far from Fresno State. And my mom, who was pregnant with her 3rd child, myself, thought she had time to get to the hospital. Well, she didn't. And at the corner of those 2 signs where you see Clinton and Cedar is where I was born. And most of you that know Fresno well, there's no hospital at the corner of Clinton and Cedar. There used to be, many years ago, Cedar Drug Store, which is now Cedar Village Plaza, which is right across from McLean High School. That's where I was born. I was delivered prematurely by my father in a Volkswagen. So there's a funny ongoing joke that runs in our family. It's a good thing that your parents didn't take Blackstone. You might have a different name. Next slide. Part of my journey has to do with 3 generations of Fresno State graduates in my family. That's my father to the left, who got his degree in the 60s, me in the 80s, and then that's my son Blake, who got his degree in the late 2010s. The reason why I don't have a cap and gown photo is because on my graduation day, I actually had a track meet. And to this day, I don't have one photo that has me in a Fresno State cap and gown. But it's generational with me and my family. When I was a kid and my father was going to Fresno State, I have memories of actually going into the existing student union and sitting in there while he went to class, probably as a 5 or 6 year old, because back then nobody was concerned about leaving your kids while you went to class. When I was young, I became fascinated by blueprints. And again, this is going to tie into the technology we're going to see later because nobody really uses blueprints anymore. This was a house that we were considering building out back on the west side of Fresno on Kearney Boulevard. And when I saw these, it fascinated me. I thought it was pretty interesting to be able to see how you could draw a house and show the rooms on a piece of paper. That became the catalyst of my excitement for the industry. That house was eventually built on Kearney Boulevard, and that's where I grew up, in West Fresno. West Fresno, that house was a little further on Kearney, so I tend to call it Western Fresno, but those were some of the greatest memories that I had as a kid, and those are the people and the friends that I have to this day, and all of them were successful in their own way. And that was kind of the catalyst to getting us and myself to who we are and my love for Fresno. And of course, in my neighborhood, it was just a given that you graduate and you go to college. And I was a 1982 graduate of Central High School, and the decision was, where are you going to school? And I decided to go to Fresno State. But that's where we enter our technology and the use of technology for this presentation. So I need everybody to go to menti.com if you're on your computer, or if you are on your phone, and put in that code to make this interactive so I'm not the only one doing the talking. And you'll see the question, why did I choose to go to Fresno State? And if you could put in your answer, you'll see the items start to populate. Menti.com. Some think I wanted to stay in Fresno. Some thought track and field. Some think maybe the engineering program. The blueprints were obviously a factor with me. Track and field versus wanted to stay in Fresno. One thought maybe the architectural program. Oh, there's a tie now. Most think Fresno State or track and field, and some think wanted to stay in Fresno. Well, I will tell you that the answer is track and field. Yes, I was pretty successful in my high school days, and track and field was really what brought me to Fresno State. And that's the main reason why I went, and then discovered the architecture and construction program through the Industrial Technology Department. Now, back to Fresno State. Decision was made. Now I want to talk about my career path and what it was like to be at Fresno State back in the 80s. My freshman year was the greatest, I think, of all. It was the best athletic year. There was a commemorative book called the Bulldog Sports Review, because in 82 and 83 is when every single athletic team won their championship. Basketball won the NIT, football won bowls, and baseball team won the championship all the way down to tracks, tennis, and all of it. So it was a great year. During those years, it was a combination of balance. Balance of the athletics, balance of my schoolwork, and balance of my fraternity. So as you can see in this picture, we had a lot of success with our track and field team, a lot of success with athlete interaction. That's my wife there, Denise, who actually played volleyball. I met her in college. And then Fresno State football back in the 80s was actually the place to be. As a track and field athlete, we sold programs, and it really was a way to put a little extra money in our pockets. The other balance was my fraternity. One of the things that I must say to this date is I appreciate the fact that Fresno State had a very thriving Black Greek organization. I was a member of Alpha Phi Alpha fraternity. I was the president, and Fresno State actually allowed us to stomp on the yard, so to speak. We had Greek shows, and it was a way that we could express our culture and our fraternity, and those bonds remain to this day. And then third was balancing the projects. These are 4 Fresno State projects that I actually worked on during my construction and studies of architectural skills. I actually wanted to be an architect, but my professors convinced me that it was the construction field that was going to be more lucrative, and I'm glad that they did. But all these documents here, I like to describe these as low tech. You're going to see the things that are high tech that we use today. But all these documents were done by hand, and they were done by teachings of Fresno State classes. I don't know if they still have a Construction 31 and a Construction 131 class, but those are listed on the title blocks there. So it's those 3 that I learned to balance and multitask that took me to a career at Fresno State and then my senior project. And it's interesting because just today, I don't know if Professor Hyatt is on, but he has noted that he has invited me to the senior projects, to view the senior projects of this year's 2020 class. So here's a picture of my senior project, which was a downtown Fresno cultural center. We built a full-scale model, and it was the way to really cap and culminate a career, Fresno State student-athlete career. After the senior project, now it was time to start a career. My career actually started in Fresno with a company called Malden Dorfmeyer. People probably remember that name. I started with Malden Dorfmeyer as a laborer, working in the summers. I did some work outside of the industry, working at a bank, guarantee savings and loan, and then really launched my career in the Bay Area, working for various firms, so Brian Kreitzberg, URS, and then ultimately it took me to Turner Construction. My career at Turner is now 21 years, where I've held many positions from assistant project manager, senior project manager, business development, which is more of a sales position, project executive, and now the business manager of the Fresno office, which is responsible for profit and loss, and I have my own profit center for the Fresno office. Here is a picture of me in our new hard hats as we talk about technology and how things change. One of the things you will see on Turner Jobs is we don't use the old hard hats anymore. This is more of a helmet. It has a better fit to your head. It has better eye and face protection. And that's just one of the things that we do as we change with the technology and change with the times. So during my career, a number of Central Valley projects I just thought I'd highlight real quick. Turner projects and my projects. Children's Hospital of Central California. Off to the left, the Kaiser patient lifts, Fresno Kaiser patient lifts. We remodeled and renovated a number of patient lifts throughout Kaiser. You'll see Bulldog Stadium off to the right, although yes, we did not build Bulldog Stadium. We were quite instrumental in doing some investigative research to discover why some of the cracking was happening at the stadium. And we actually repaired a number of the stairs that were cracking, and we actually discovered the cause of those cracking. So we've actually done work on Bulldog Stadium, BFSIS Courthouse, West Fresno on the Cooley Funeral Home, and even up and down the valley, which is the UC Merced downtown center. I'm really known for my education projects. So this is a sampling of my education projects. You have Edison High School in the upper left, which is one of my favorites. You have CSU Stanislaus middle, and then just a number of other education, high school, and projects that are at the top of my resume. Now let's talk about technology and innovation at Turner. But before we do that, we're going to do a little bit more of Minty. Since we just went through my discussion about going to Fresno State, I wanted to ask the group, how many Turner employees do you think are currently employed, or Turner employees are Fresno State alum? I see a race between 14 and 20. A tie again, 14 and 20. Anybody else? Oh, 14 is taking the lead. I think there might be a few students who might know that number from a recent presentation, but yes, the answer is 14. So over the last, I don't know, probably 15 plus or minus years, we have continued to hire Fresno State students, and they are in positions with Turner all the way from San Diego to San Francisco. And we continue to remain committed. I remain committed to looking for Fresno State employees because they are definitely beneficial to the industry. The next question, before we transition into the technology and some of the technical things that we're doing at Turner, is just kind of would like for anybody to share in a word or two, why is technology valuable to you? Because you're going to see some of the reasons in these upcoming slides, but why is technology important or valuable to you? Saves money? Yes, definitely. Is it efficient? Yep, it does make us more efficient. We can definitely save resources. It makes us safer. Oh yeah, it definitely makes life easier sometimes. Efficiency, that's a common theme. Quality of life, more precise. That's a great one. You're going to see some of that in these slides. Helps create a better standard of living. Excellent. These are all great ideas, and you're all right, because that is why technology is valuable. So as we transition to technology and innovation at Turner, I wanted to first start with, we look at technology and being innovative to really make our job sites smarter. We try to set up a network of smart sensors and smart devices that collect and exchange data so we can increase our quality and all those things that you guys just said. So here's an example, and I want to start with working with technology in a new COVID environment. So we all have to accept and learn new and changing procedures. We have to maintain productivity, and we have to be 6 foot socially distant at all times. So how do you do that on a construction site? We're essential, and we still have to work, but we have to do it safely. So one of the things that we have been investigating and piloting and rolling out, trying to make it more efficient use of technology, is the use of wearable technology in order to limit the social distancing between some of the construction workers. One of the ways that we've done that is we've reached out to 2 leading companies who are leaders in wearable technology. We shortlisted down to a couple, and we did some tests, and we measured the results. The result that we think is best going forward is a company called Proximity Trace, that has a device that can fit the top of your hard hat, and it provides an audible and a visual signal, and it also can send a signal by a cloud-based dashboard so we can facilitate contact tracing. Just one way that COVID has turned us into using technology to be able to track and use it on our construction sites. The next one is an example that we are using in our proposals and our presentations, and that's the use of a green screen. What a green screen does is help us think outside of the box, just like our presentation now. I have a virtual background, but I have my screen. When we go to a presentation, which is usually in person, well, we kind of think outside of the box. Why not be able to present over a green screen and have our superintendent or our project manager actually walk through and show you how they're going to build the projects? If you can't be in the room, we're using that type of technology to show and convince our owners that this is how we're going to build your project. Another example is we're using virtual reality for mock-ups. And as I put on this virtual reality glasses, this is what you would put on as you see and walk through any particular project. Here's an example of West Park High School. This is a project I just completed. And it shows you the size, the scale, the colors before you actually build it. So when you're sitting down and you're having a coordination meeting with your trade partners, you can actually get a sense of what it's going to look like. You can see what's up in the ceiling, because looking at it two-dimensional and even sometimes three-dimensional, it's kind of difficult. But when you bring the colors and everything to reality, it makes it better to be able to see and understand. This idea and this example was actually used at a conference, K-12 schools conference, and it was really a hit because people could put the glasses on and actually walk through an entire high school campus before it was built. Another example of technology that we use includes reality capture, and this is the Avenues School Project, another one of my projects in the South Bay area. Avenues is a school that has campuses all over the world. It's a private school. It attracts a certain type of client. And as the school was being built, COVID hit. And the owner came to us and said, hey, I've got these schools all over the world. I need to be able to see what's going on the job sites, even though I can't travel. So we proposed 3 or 4 different solutions for reality capture, where you set up a 360 camera, and it allows the architect, the engineers, and the owner to actually physically see the construction and be part of the project, even though they're not there. Just another use of how we're using technology. This example here is the new Kaiser headquarters. It was a pursuit last year where we were proposing to be the builder for a new 30-story Kaiser headquarters in downtown Oakland. And if anybody knows Oakland, there are tunnels that go all underneath, particularly the BART tunnel. So as we build a model and we figure out our approach to building it and convincing the owner how we're going to build it, we build, and you see, if you could back it up maybe 5 or 10 seconds, that tube that is underneath that building is the BART tunnel. So it really helps us to be able to plan how we're going to prepare our approach, how we're going to plan piles that have to be dug and drilled around a BART tunnel without interrupting the integrity of the entire 30-story building. So that image there, you're looking at the bottom of a 30-story foundation with piles, and that's a BART tunnel that goes underneath the building. Next we should have digital fabrication. I've got the Minty screen up. Are you guys seeing the Minty screen, or are you seeing digital fabrication? Because I see, let's see. Okay. Hang tight. Just a quick little technical difficulty and we'll have it right back. In the meantime, are there any questions that I could answer before we get the other screen back? I think I see some Q&A. I see some chat. 1 second. Okay, there we go. So another form of technology that we are using in our industry is digital fabrication of workflows. And one of the things that we are doing is take, for instance, slab coordination. We build 3D models of coordination drawings so we can kind of vet the slab locations, the location of the embeds, and then we actually model the formwork so we can make sure that the formwork and the embeds align perfectly. We produce a production drawing. We create formwork from that model, and then we make sure that the forms are labeled, they're drilled, they're cut to width, and then we use a CNC machine, deliver it to the job site, make sure everything's digitally coordinated, and make sure that it's accurate workflow for some of the formwork and the installation. This slide here is about prefabrication. One of the most innovative and technical things that we try to do is limit the amount of waste, and the best way to do that is by taking advantage of prefabrication or modularization. Prefabbing components, systems, sub-assemblies, or any type of module to be built or put in place makes it much easier for us, and it's safer. So here's a couple of examples of a project. This one is a North Carolina project. It's probably the extreme example of how we can prefabricate 52 separate modules for a mechanical penthouse on top of a project. That's one example. The next one kind of shows it in a different digital graphic way. But if you think about breaking up your projects into components, we take the technology, we take our models, and we see if we can break it up into components. If you can build it off-site in a controlled environment, you can control, you can reduce the labor, you can increase the quality, and obviously it makes it for a much safer job site if you are having less work in an unsafe condition. So prefabrication is another excellent way that we are using technology and innovation in our projects. Next is advanced robotics. Now this is kind of interesting. You can see what we call SPOT. SPOT was a recently launched pilot program. We actually used an earlier form of SPOT when we built the Golden One Center in Sacramento. The earlier form of SPOT was a rover that had wheels like a remote control car. And it was all about a robot that can safely traverse construction sites, and sometimes with wheels that's not as easy to do. So it has developed into advanced robotics, a form of SPOT, who is responsible for laser scanning, capturing progress monitoring, doing quality control checks, updating as-built and BIM models, and it includes on the top the latest in reality capture technologies that we saw on that Avenue School project. Again, it's a pilot program, and it could be a wave of the future. Pretty interesting to see what looks like a dog, but is not a dog, walking across our projects. So where do these ideas come from? These ideas are all from Turner's Innovation Challenge. One of the things that we do within Turner is we encourage everybody. We welcome visionaries, we welcome thought leaders, whether you're a builder, whether you're a superintendent, whether you're an accountant, or whether you're a quality control person, to come up with innovative and creative ideas. And by doing that, we have an annual innovation challenge and an innovation expo where those thoughts and ideas all come to fruition. We do it in a three-part process where we look for the idea, how it would be piloted, and then how it would be implemented. And there's a number of ideas that were actually captured. Some of them even include wearable clothing. Some of the things like that are all that we continuously push the envelope to try to get people to come up with great and new and innovative ideas. So that's the brief version of the technology and some of the innovative things that we've done at Turner. I thought that I would share my two favorite projects before I open it up to questions and answers. I think we've got some good time. But my whole journey when it comes to Fresno and where I am now working for Turner and the Fresno office, one of my favorite projects is Edison High School. That project, you did use some technology that used BIM technology. One of the things that I recall, we had a conflict with fire sprinkler piping that was conflicting with some of the steel beams. And we modeled that, shared that with the structural engineer so we could route the piping through the beam with the structural engineer's approval. But this project was special to me because, number one, it's in West Fresno. Number two, it's a project. Edison is like an icon of West Fresno. My grandmother actually went to this school, and my father went to this school. So when we did this project at Edison High School, we demolished a building that my father actually learned in when he was in school and replaced it with this new state-of-the-art technologically looking building designed by Darden. And it also won awards as one of the top 30 most interesting schools in the world. So Edison High right in Fresno was one of my favorite projects. The other one is the Golden One Center. Golden One Center in Sacramento was truly an iconic addition to the downtown Sacramento area, completely changed the landscape. The project was special because it was a multi-year pursuit. We had 3 previous tries with different efforts with developers. But when it finally came to fruition, it was very satisfying. My role at the time was the business development manager, and to be able to secure that under contract as the business development manager and get the Golden One Center built with some very ambitious goals and targets that included local participation, small business participation, all under a PLA, project labor agreement. And within that project labor agreement, it included over 80 priority apprentices that came from certain zip codes and areas that were all introduced to the construction industry on the backs of this project. I helped lead that effort and proud of the fact that after many years of that pursuit, it put a lot of local businesses to work. It created job opportunities, even for small businesses. So the project as a whole being very technologically advanced, very satisfying to change the landscape of Sacramento, and then having success stories as it relates to all the goals that were achieved and exceeded was quite satisfying. So with all of that, I think now, right at 38 minutes, I think we're right on our time. I think I'll open it up. Unless Kendrick, you have anything else, I'll be glad to take or share any questions that anybody has.
We have a couple of them right here. This one was asked by Robert Mitchell. Is Turner incorporating building practices that appreciate company dynamics that may run counter to original plans?
Oh, Mr. Mitchell, I know that guy. Incorporating building practices that appreciate community dynamics that may run counter to original plans. Yes, the perfect or the best example of that was the Golden One Center. I think the best thing that we can do going forward is to make sure that the community's interest is in our best interest. One of our standards is any project that we build, we want to make sure that we represent the community that we're building in. So I guess the short answer is yes. We have a history of building all over the country, and we do our best to reflect the communities that we build in with our workforce and our subcontracting and trade contractor workforce also.
And we have another one right here by Kyle Sweeney. Are these robots going to help workers in the field?
Are they going to help workers in the field? Yes, they're going to help because it's going to help with technology. So if a robot or spot is to go through, you have all the digital technology that can scan and identify things exactly, whereas sometimes a human cannot. It is not designed to replace humans. It's designed to augment the work that we're doing. it's really a factor of increasing our quality control and making us more efficient. So we are actually not replacing humans, but it's going to make us better and it's going to make us more efficient.
And we have another one here by Angela Lona. Do any of the technologies you mentioned today resonate more with what's coming up in the Central Valley design and construction management in the construction market?
I think they all do. It depends on the particular project. You know, a healthcare project can really take advantage of some of these technologies. When we talk about, BIM coordination, 3D modeling, laser scanning, a healthcare project is much more complex and technical. Education projects can be also, if it is a science or lab or technology building. There's a lot of parts and pieces and some of the coordination that has to be done amongst wet labs and dry labs. All that exact fit of parts and pieces is necessary for us to be exact and not to be off. So that's where we would take advantage of the technology and use it on projects that are in Fresno. Two in particular, a UHS behavioral health project that will be launching adjacent to the Children's Hospital project in Madera, and then a PG&E Service Center project out at California and Orange that we will be launching also. All will use some form of this technology. You won't see Spot, the robot dog, out there, but other forms of this technology, yes, we will use them on some of our Fresno projects.
We have another one here from Patrick Hernandez. Is the Fresno office going to hire any interns this summer?
You know, we hire interns every summer. We are talking with our HR department about how many we will actually hire. We spread out our interns based on where they would actually work. So we try to put them on projects in the locations of where they are. I'll go out on a limb and I'll say, yes, we always like to hire interns from Fresno and Fresno State to work in our Fresno projects and or the Fresno office.
We have a question from Isaac Cortez. From what you learned at Fresno State, whether it is technical information or advice, what has helped you reach where you are now?
You know, Fresno State really taught me the basics of the industry. I think I mentioned I really started off wanting to be an architect, and then I switched and became more construction focused. So what Fresno State taught me was the basics of the industry. Just, how, the differences between construction management versus a general contractor, just the basics of the business of construction. I think that foundation is what I got from Fresno State. Once I got out into the industry, the technology just continues to develop. So you will always continue to learn and grow with technology as it changes. So my first 5 years out of college, the technology was not as advanced at the time. I think we were all working off of 486 computers with dot matrix printers and monochrome screens. And now you look at everything on iPads and your phone, and blueprints are a thing of the past. You can pull up your drawings on your phone, or you can pull up your drawings on your iPad. So the technology will always change, but from Fresno State, I got the basics and the foundation of the industry, construction business, differences between construction management versus general contracting, and all the parts pieces in between.
We also have one here from Ahmed Hussein. What are the requirements to increase the chances of landing an internship?
Yeah, there's a lot of competition out there, I will say that. We've had 2 Fresno State information sessions. We've had 2 rounds of interviews. And as I've mentioned to those students, once you get through the first round of interviews, you go into a pool with others from other similar universities, whether it's Chico State, Sac State, Cal Poly, many others. And you get ranked. And once you get ranked, we'll determine if you get called back for a second round interview. So that's kind of where we are. We're doing some rankings, and there are some second round interviews that are going on now. But the best thing is just to be strong. We look for people that communicate, We look for people that have some experience or at least show some interest and passion about the industry, and extracurricular activities also. Those things are really what's important and what we look for internships and future hires.
I think that's it. Doesn't look like there's any more questions coming in. So I guess we'll close out here. Thank you for joining us, Mr. Williams. We look forward to learning more about your important work, and thank you all for joining us today. So please stay tuned for the next Lyles College of Engineering Tech Talks, and visit fresnostate.edu/Tech Talks, or follow us on Instagram at Fresno State LCOE. On behalf of everyone here in Lyles College of Engineering, thank you and have a great weekend.
Yeah, let me also say one more time, thank you to Dean Nuna, the Lyles College of Engineering. I enjoy this. I appreciate you recommending me, and I look forward to working with the College of Engineering and doing many more things in the future.